Welcome back, everyone. So, think about this for a second. Have you ever tried to maintain a genuinely positive attitude on, say, 3 hours of sleep? Or, I don't know, tried to be cheerful and upbeat while nursing a massive headache? Yeah, it's pretty much impossible, right? Well, you already know the secret we're unpacking today. I am absolutely thrilled to welcome you to the fifth explainer in our ongoing Psychology of Happiness series. Today's topic is titled Physical Aspects of Happiness, and honestly, I have to tell you, this one fundamentally shifts how we understand well-being. So often, we're conditioned to think of happiness as something that exists purely from the neck up, like it's just a mental state, a series of positive thoughts, or purely emotional reactions to the world around us. But today, we're diving into the undeniable core concept that happiness is deeply, inherently physical. Your body and your mind are just so intricately interconnected that your physical health, your sleep patterns, your daily energy, and even your cellular biology are actively participating in your happiness every single second of the day.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is the roadmap for our explainer today. We're going to systematically cover Section 1, the body-mind connection. Section 2, the biology of happiness. Section 3, habits for physical joy. Section 4, navigating illness and aging. Section 5, holistic health and yoga. And finally, Section 6, the reciprocal cycle. Let's get right to it. Section 1, the body-mind's connection beyond just thoughts. All right, so it's time we really challenge the common assumption that happiness is solely a psychological luxury. For a really long time, the traditional view of happiness was literally just defined as feeling good, purely a mental and emotional state. But back in 1984, a psychologist named Ed Diner kind of revolutionized the whole field by developing this concept of subjective well-being. This gave us a much more holistic view. Now, why was this so revolutionary? Well, because when we apply his concept physically, we see that happiness isn't just about feeling good in your head. It actually requires functioning well in your bodily life. We're talking about things like your physical energy levels, your sleep quality, how your nervous system regulates pain, and even your hormonal balance. Just think about it. You could have immense wealth, the perfect job, incredibly high social status, but if your physical body is constantly running on empty, your overall happiness is inevitably going to take a huge hit. The absolute biggest takeaway here is that you simply cannot outthink a biologically exhausted body. It just doesn't work that way. Moving on to Section 2, Biology of Happiness, Immunity and Heart Health. Let's move beyond just the theory for a minute and look at the hard biological science linking our everyday emotions directly to our body's defense mechanisms. And this brilliantly illustrates the point. In a very famous 2003 study by Sheldon Cohen and his colleagues, researchers did something kind of incredible and maybe a little gross. They literally exposed individuals to a common cold virus. They actually put cold virus drops directly into the participants' noses, quarantined them, and then just monitored who actually got sick. The results were completely astounding. People with a more positive emotional style were demonstrably less likely to develop the illness. Just pause and think about that for a second. Your emotional well-being has a direct, measurable physical effect on your body's resistance to pathogens. Being in a state of happiness helps indirectly influence your immunity by reducing systemic stress and basically keeping your body's defense and recovery systems strong and super vigilant. But the biological connection definitely doesn't stop at the common cold. Let's talk about your heart. Back in 2007, researchers Kubzansky and Thurston found that something called emotional vitality significantly reduces the risk of coronary heart disease. Now, what does that actually mean in plain English? Well, emotional vitality isn't just pasting on a fake smile when you're incredibly stressed out. Not at all. It's actually defined as an underlying sense of energy, emotional balance, and a really positive engagement with your daily challenges. It's about tackling a problem with energy rather than just a heavy sense of defeat. When you possess this kind of vitality, it actively protects your cardiovascular health. How? By reducing chronic physiological strain and lowering that constant toxic drip of stress hormones like cortisol. Heart health and happiness are mutually connected in a very literal, highly measurable sense. This brings us to Section 3, Habits for Physical Joy, Activity, Rest, and Diet. So now that we understand the biology behind all of this, let's shift our focus to our daily behaviors. The really great news here is that we have practical, actionable pathways entirely within our control to bridge the body and our happiness. Your daily routines are quite literally the biological foundation for your emotional balance. Just look at the data. Kenneth Fox's 1999 review shows that exercise fundamentally alters our biology. It boosts neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine and improves our overall energy metabolism, all while lifting our mood. And the absolute best part? You don't have to be some elite Olympic athlete to get these benefits. Seriously. Pinedo and Dan in 2005 concluded that even moderate physical activity, like just taking a brisk daily walk, substantially increases your baseline psychological well-being. And we absolutely cannot forget sleep. Steptoe and his colleagues in 2015 emphasized that quality sleep is arguably the single most vital health behavior you can have, because it physically restores your central nervous system. And no, chugging a triple-shot espresso is definitely not a biological substitute for 8 solid hours of sleep. Without real rest, our emotional regulation completely falls apart.
Okay, so beyond moving and resting, there is how we fuel ourselves. You might actually be familiar with sattvic habits from traditional health systems. This involves mindful eating, balanced nourishment, and moderation, often focusing on fresh, easily digestible whole foods. But you might be wondering, why does a dietary concept even matter for an explainer on psychology? Well, because nutrition isn't just physical fuel for your muscles, it's quite literally the building block of your mood. Your brain and your gut absolutely require specific nutrients to produce the neurotransmitters that make you feel happy. In fact, did you know your gut produces a massive amount of your body's serotonin? That's your primary happiness chemical right there. So, eating well isn't just a diet thing. It is a direct behavioral and psychological factor that regulates your emotional life and promotes a really deep sense of inner calmness.
Let's see how this all connects back to stress through Barbara Fredrickson's famous 2001 broaden and build theory. When we manage our physical stress through those good habits we just discussed, we open the door to step 1, experiencing positive emotions. Because our body isn't locked in a constant state of panic, we can seamlessly move to step 2, broadening our thought-action tendencies. Now, what this actually means in your daily life is that you become way more creative and open-minded, instead of being perpetually stuck in fight-or-flight mode. Imagine finally solving a really complex problem at work simply because you are physically rested enough to think creatively about it. Which then brings us to step 3, building long-term psychological and physical resources like resilience and coping abilities. Positive emotions literally help us recover from the physical toll of chronic stress. It's an amazing cascading effect.
Which leads into Section 4, navigating illness and aging, coping with limitations.
We really have to be realistic and empathetic here. Life involves inevitable physical decline. None of us are immune to aging, and many of us are going to face illness at some point. I want to be incredibly clear on how this works, drawing from Diner and Chan's 2011 research. Happiness is a vital supportive factor in coping and resilience, but, and I cannot stress this enough, it is absolutely not a substitute for proper medical treatment. We are completely avoiding the toxic positivity trap here. We aren't suggesting for a second that if you just smile enough, serious disease will magically vanish. No way. Psychology and modern medicine are partners, not competitors. Instead, what happiness does is provide the psychological vitality that helps us cope with illness in a deeply meaningful way. It helps us maintain gratitude, sustain our relationships, and hold on to hope even when the physical body is experiencing acute pain or natural decline.
A massive part of coping with our physical selves involves our body image. When we look at the toxic media ideals represented on the left side here, we see these completely unrealistic standards that just lead to profound shame and make us feel completely alienated from our own physical forms. And honestly, the emotional toll of this bodily alienation is staggering. Now contrast that with a healthy body image on the right. This is where we view the body based on its actual functionality. We treat it with dignity, self-care, and deep acceptance. Cultivating this compassionate self-perception is vital. You really have to remind yourself, your body is literally the only vehicle you get for this life. Respecting it as an incredible instrument of life, rather than just some object to be constantly judged, is an absolute prerequisite for joy and a massive physical component of true happiness.
And as we age, maintaining that well-being requires a holistic, deeply adaptable toolkit. According to Steptoe, Deaton, and Stone's 2015 findings, aging well doesn't mean pretending your physical strength isn't declining. It means adapting gracefully. It requires continued, appropriate physical activity. It requires proper nutrition and sleep, and of course, necessary medical care. But just as importantly, it requires social engagement, purpose, and emotional resilience. Let's actually talk about social purpose for a second, because I feel like it's often completely overlooked in physical health discussions. Having a real reason to get out of bed in the morning literally keeps the body moving. Happiness in our later years largely comes from a sense of dignity and belonging, working harmoniously with our bodies as they inevitably change. Moving on to Section 5, Holistic Health and Yoga, Uniting Body and Breath.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the traditional practice of yoga operates as a perfectly integrated system that actively unites the mind and the body. Just look at how the practice is broken down here. First, you have asana, the physical postures. This focuses on the body to build flexibility, strength, and bodily comfort. Then you have pranayama, which focuses entirely on the breath. This directly regulates the central nervous system and provides immense, tangible support for mental calmness. Actually, take a second right now just to notice your own breath as you're listening to this. Really, just do it. That micro-awareness alone is a powerful tool for calmness. And finally, you have meditation, focusing on the mind to reduce stress and improve inner peace. The yogic approach is so profound because it categorically refuses to separate physical health from mental and spiritual well-being. It cultivates all three of them at the exact same time.
And our final section, Section 6, the reciprocal cycle, a two-way street.
If there is one overarching theme you take away from this explainer today, it absolutely has to be the bidirectional nature of this relationship. Take a look at this quote from Lubomirsky, King, and Diner from 2005. Happiness is associated with success in many domains, including health, work, and relationships. What they are arguing here is completely revolutionary. Happiness isn't just the passive prize you get at the end of the day because you happen to feel physically good. No, happiness is an active driving force. It creates these powerful positive behavioral cycles. Think about it. When you feel physically awful, you're far less likely to socialize, right? Or do great work. But when happiness is driving you, you are intrinsically motivated to invest back into your physical health and your relationships. And that creates a massive compounding effect over time.
Let's move to and see how this builds a beautiful continuous chain reaction known as the reciprocal causation loop. It all starts with step 1, improved physical health. Say you actually get a great, truly restorative night's sleep. Well, that directly leads to step 2, higher happiness and vitality the very next day. And because you feel vibrant, energetic, and happy, you're much more likely to make the choice in step 3, better health behaviors. You might decide to go for a brisk walk or take the time to cook a really nutritious meal, instead of just crashing on the couch with some junk food because you're exhausted. And then that brilliant positive choice leads directly to step 4, further improved health. It is a continuous upward spiral of holistic well-being where your body and your mind are working together as a unified, totally unstoppable team.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this provocative question to ponder. Will you let your happiness heal your body, or will you let your body heal your happiness? The beautiful truth we've learned today is that you can, and honestly you should, do both. By integrating your physical health, your daily movement, your deep rest, and your mindful breath with your psychological resilience, you build a lasting, incredibly vibrant well-being. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer on the physical aspects of happiness. If you found this explainer valuable, please hit that like button, drop a comment below with your absolute biggest takeaway, share this with someone who really needs to hear it, and absolutely make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next deep dive. See you next time.